In the darkness of the day of Night's Vale, welcome to the Boardcast, Danny Gang and Danny!
You were so tense a second ago.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you're gonna nail the intro, and you went
up
for it.
I feel you opening up to me. Right?
Yeah. Before we all
a big
started
old
here,
kiss.
Riley was all like just clenched up, just in there, ready to go, firing up.
Locked in, as the kids say.
Locked in.
in.
Nice, very, very good. Welcome to the podcast, Riley. You're a long-time listener, first-time guest. You got,
One of the earliest Patreon members.
as the kids say, is OG from episode 1 onwards.
How much value have you received
Infinite.
your Patreon?
We have enriched your life, hopefully.
I have received multiple brain aneurysms from, like, the League of Legends episode you recently did about the lore and stuff,
Yeah.
and a few other things. I was like,
Yeah, I'm sure we're actually a horrible podcast for anybody who wants real information about the thing.
Yeah.
Because we just talk a lot of
We
shit.
spew opinions like we know what we're talking about. I'll be honest, most of the time, we just talk about steroids.
We've got a real circle back to talking about juiced games like 3 or 4 times now without even
definitely.
meaning
yeah, I
it to.
noticed that, eh? Like, that's been like the third time now, or two and a half.
Well, it's like we talked about it and then it came to fruition. So I want to feel like we're part of the success that it's having, I think.
Sure,
You know?
done.
Oh, I think you're getting the pitch across real smooth. Like, not gonna lie, I am stoked.
It is funny though. We quite often talk about like concepts and different things, and I am quite confident in the information that I have about it. And then when it comes to actually talking about it, I completely lose all.
I
of it.
feel like I know 70% of a topic and 30% nah, but my brain will just be like, listen, I'm just going to try and fill in the gaps.
Fill the gaps.
Fill in the gaps. And hopefully I'm correct.
That's the thing about this podcast, though. It's just like accuracy is not really.
Accuracy
it's more
is
of
a
an optional
suggestion.
extra.
Yeah.
Like, if people want an accurate podcast, there is thousands of them on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts.
There's other people trying to catfish you into thinking that their information is correct. We're telling you from the front, it's all shit. It's all
Like,
nonsense.
it's like the Jackass intro of like, this is all improvised. Do not try this. We're
We're professionals. Do not try this at home.
Yeah, don't try this at home.
Do you have a favorite moment on the podcast? Do you have a favorite episode? Do you have a favorite guest?
Favorite guests, like just the sheer craziness that John would
Yeah.
bring in, considering that he absorbs the tangents and would embrace
I think
it.
episode 10 is still up
Yeah,
there.
episode 10 's so good.
One of our big episodes.
Yeah, I would. Funny enough, like whenever Danny laughs, it just gives me. This is a really, really deep cut. But like, you know the old Knife Party songs?
Yeah,
where
yeah,
the
yeah.
monkey laugh or the screech and the monkey screech?
I do, yeah.
1-to-1.
Wait, Knife Party?
Yeah.
Knife Party. It's like we're going immediately off tangent a kilometer that way.
Yeah, Knife Party was like a group of DJs that were quite popular already. I can't remember who they were.
Like,
now.
it
90s
was-
or 2000s.
It was like Flux Pavilion, Skrillex era.
That's
it was
it,
that
yeah.
sort
Whoa.
of stuff.
Yeah, Knife Party played in Joondalup. They were only together for a short period of time because there was a few big DJs who were just like made like a super group for a little bit there.
Like collab, yeah.
Yeah, and it's there was a lot of like the early age of like fanfare, like "Do-do-do-do," and like all that, and just like making like Skrillex noises at you.
Have you guys checked out Skrillex still?
He does a lot of different kind of music now,
Yeah,
right?
I checked out his latest album. It's not bad.
He does a lot of it's not just trap anymore because he went through that trap era now. It's a lot of just EDM, bit of house, a lot of like
More calmed
symphonic.
down
He's-
kind of stuff.
He's doing a lot of collabs now with people rather than like excuse me, like a lot of like Boys Noise, and that was the initial ones.
Oh, yeah.
But now he's doing a lot of stuff with like Fred again, Flowdown. Like he's kind of gone into that grime sort of sector.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Would you say that's the main type of music you listen to?
Electronic
music?
I listen to a lot of music. Like recently, like electronic music, house music, yeah. Otherwise, I listen to like Opeth. Like I recently got into Opeth a lot, like prog rock stuff. Otherwise, I have listened to a lot of myriad of things.
Yeah, you'll share a lot of stuff on Instagram, and I usually, if you've shared it, I'll probably like it. Like I'll follow, I'll pick up most of the stuff you've shared, and I'll be like, oh, this is pretty good. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I actually really like. I don't think when we talked about like Spotify raps over time, this somehow became uncool to share Spotify raps, but I really like those. I like seeing mine, and I like seeing other people's. And the meme is like when you see other people's, people like, oh, why would anyone care? It's like, oh, I do care. Do I? Am I supposed to feel stupid for caring?
The funny thing you mentioned, like in brief sound check, when you mentioned like the beatbox start of an episode, there was a period of my Spotify rap that I didn't share because I felt it was a bit weird. That I was listening to beatboxing for like a whole year, just
Yeah,
different
yeah.
artists.
I mean, I respect it, right? Beatboxing is a serious skill.
Like, well, when I grew up, I was like, I was the dumb kid in school making silly noises and stuff, and then you see people just doing that, but like, better.
Was it a situation where you'd fart in class, but you'd have to beatbox on the top of it? So
Ooh.
No, but I'd just be randomly just going like over and over in this class, and everyone's looking at me like,
Yeah, why did your beatbox have bass in it?
yeah, exactly. You're just like, you're just like whatever.
I know it's a completely different thing, but the breakdancing girl, how like she like the Australian girl
From the Olympics?
From the Olympics.
What's it? Ray gun.
Yeah, ray gun. Like there's been like an investigation to it, and all of the claims that people made about it.
It goes further. This rabbit hole.
No, it's false. It's all false.
What happened?
Because all the claims that her boyfriend was. I mentioned this because beatboxing and breakdancing in my mind are the same thing for whatever reason.
Yeah,
but,
sure. Ooh, I would be down for Olympic beatboxing, and we send Riley as the Australian representative.
No. I could. Okay, we're not going to do this whole episode based on beatboxing. I could go down the rabbit hole. There is a lot of good Australian beatboxing.
Is
we'll
this a
talk,
warning
and
sign?
Riley has a beatbox for the rest.
Yeah. Is this you're putting the warning sign being, don't go down this path, you won't come back?
We've actually had a world champion of beatboxing. 2018, there's GBB, which is Global Beatboxing.
I remember you showing me this.
And Codfish, his name is. Like,
when you say
we,
do you mean like he's local to here?
Oh, he's Sydney, of course. Nothing good comes out of Perth, But like Tame Impala, woo. But beatboxing, he's Sydney based. But he was a 2018 champion, and he was really good at the time. Oh. And I mean, a lot of the champions now.
Can you share some of his work with me?
He did a lot of covers of songs.
No, I want you to do it.
Right now.
I cannot.
Just give me one. Just give us a crack.
I cannot do. Oh, trust me, I'll butcher it. I am not.
In my mind, I just be like beep, ba, 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 da, boop.
No.
If it's really bad, I'll cut it. And for the audience, they just have hard cut. Anyway, next segment.
I want you to hard cut some really impressive stuff over the top of it, so people think he's like a fucking genius.
No, okay. I don't want to be doing that. I don't have the beatboxing kind of autism, man. Come on. I drive a forklift for a living, man. Like, come on. I got the forklift.
So you do a variety of the hobby here at Northern Boards. Not only are you quite a listener to the Boardcast, but you're quite a regular here at Northern Boards. You touch a bit of Warhammer and card games. Do you have a preference? Do you prefer touching the hobby side?
Yeah, what parts of them do you like to touch?
Can I plead the
If I show you a doll, can you show me where you've been touched?
If we're considering last Sunday's Highlander, they're everywhere.
He turns the doll around and bends it over.
Yeah, it's just their wallet. The wallet gets touched.
Yeah.
Bent over, torn in half.
Did you not do so well at Highlander last week?
I got absolutely smoked. And I'm not saying I'm the best player in the world, because I'm definitely not. But no, it was just bad matchups all around.
Oh,
and
really?
in the end, just better decks, better meta stuff at the moment. Final Fantasy's dropped a lot of bangers that
What a set, man.
What a set, yeah.
Did you see a lot of Final Fantasy cards getting played in Highlander?
I have actually noticed more trend of cards.
VVs, Legends, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
The Red White Legends basically is mostly all Final Fantasy cards for the most part. Like Kieran's list had a lot in them. Otherwise, VVs were popping up as well. I think someone else was running one.
What I've noticed with the Final Fantasy set is they definitely had to juice up the power a little bit here, but because the set had quite a variety of themes hit, just in general, a lot of cards are being seen play in multiple formats. Yeah. So standard, we're just going to ignore, because standard right now is a mess.
Yeah, I shared that picture on our social media where it was the standard, and it was all mono red or red blue, which is like, is it? And it's like, there's no diversity whatsoever. And we talk about them trying to make a push for standard in Magic to try and compete with like Flesh and Blood and One Piece and these other with going really strong 1v1s. And then you look at the standard meta, and it's the worst diversity that's ever had ever.
Yeah. I've never
this is with them trying.
I used to complain with mono red. We're going back to would have been Dominaria 2016. I think Dominaria standard, where it was like Goblin Chain Whirler. God, that was love those days. I wish we had Goblin Chain Whirler back.
We should go back to my day when Goblin Chain Whirler was everywhere.
Well, that was the busted card. Now you got like
VV.
I don't even know where
Monstrous
to begin.
Rage, everything.
How many did you have for Highlander on Sunday then?
We had 12 people.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah, we had a pretty steady regular amount.
You're done with exam, or you're like uni now, and I was hoping that with the Sarissa available, you and I could play in the event that day.
Yeah.
And in the end, my son's football game got changed, and I ended up being out, and I had to do goals at the football. Sorry, and so I was absolutely drenched. I got that day. It was bucketing with rain, and I was soaked through to the bone. So by the time I'd finished football and then got back here, it was already like 5 o'clock, so I didn't even make it through in the end. But it was like our first opportunity in a long time that all of us could get into Highlander.
I could tell you've been practicing a lot more to try and get more reps in.
I want to be in the community. Like I want to play the game.
It would be a nice little showing for us to show up on a monthly and really play. I know I disappointed John a little bit for not playing on the day. He was really keen to see me play. But I've been kind of like diversifying. I've been playing a lot of that Riftbound League of Legends TCG, but that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah, I always saw you boys playing that you printed the cards out. Yeah, I saw you were playing online to begin with.
Correct. We were playing on Tabletop Simulator. We're trying to push the whole like Riftbound thing here at Northern Boards, trying to make Northern Boards really a hub for the game. Obviously, myself as having a vested interest helps push it. And then we printed out proxy decks as well and trying to
What day are you going to be doing that?
This idea is to have Sundays on a regular weeklies.
Oh, so every Sunday?
So because it gives me the chance to also come down occasionally on the Sunday to play and push it. So, you know, I want to give it a go as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm more than happy to League of Legends to have a card game format that I can play as opposed to League of Legends, which
Riley has had a track history with League of Legends. For good and bad.
Making hand gestures at me right now.
Just hand gestures of the fact of like a scar I've got here. Of like
is this the
damage to my
infamous
knuckles.
time you punched the monitor?
This was a separate game that I was playing. Like this is a scar from that.
If I may, me and Riley, you know, we play video games every now and again. We were playing Apex Legends, which is a battle royale first-person shooter. Apex Legends is a pretty fast-paced shooter, and you have to coordinate with the team. Me and Riley were playing together, and you get forced a third player. Our third player wasn't really doing much. Me and Riley were really doing a lot of the heavy lifting. We get caught in a bad fight. Riley has strong opinions on one of the characters called Wraith.
It was sorry to interrupt. This was like last two teams, so it was our trio
we
versus
were just
the other
about to
trio,
win.
and we were kind of on the advantage. We cheesed, like knocked one of them down, sniped them. We're like, okay, we've got the advantage.
And then my favorite part is that like the fight didn't go well for us. I see Riley go down. And then I go down as well. And then normally I hear a lot from Riley's microphone, like a lot of expletives when he goes down. But if Riley went silent, and I was like, that's not right. When Riley goes silent, he's mad.
The rage is pending.
And then like we disconnect, we back to the menu, nothing happens for a while. He comes back onto the Discord. And he's like, I need a new monitor.
And it was, I had lanced my fist through the monitor. Like,
my God.
like I genuinely... Like, I have anger issues when it comes to video games, competitive ones, hence why I don't play them anymore. I kind of keep to myself or single player. I yell at myself for being bad at the game.
Playing
rather than
real life games is way more healthy for you anyway, because you get to socialize, you calm down a little bit in the situation.
It was just, I think after that moment, like, I genuinely caved it in half. Like, I punched it, saw red, basically. And just murdered the monitor.
So it is fun.
And I've got damage to my wall.
It happens.
It's something about video games that I don't know what it is that makes you so frustrating. I think it's because you're so close to you're always so close to achieving the goal you're trying to achieve, and yet it's stripped away from you. Whereas like when you're playing poker or like card games in front of people, there's I think you're tempering your emotions outwardly at all times, like a regular human interaction with at any time, whether you're at the shops and someone's pissing you off, or you're in the I always equate it to the same thing as like how people will kick off when you're in cars. Someone will flip you off. That if you were standing next to each other in a car park, or in a shop,
they have to suffer consequence.
Yeah,
because you can react to that.
But there's like when two cars next to each other, someone will road rage at you, and you look at them and I'm like, this guy's half my size. Why does he think of this? What is he? You know what I mean? But they would never do it in person. I think the video games are the same way, where you're disconnected from the human part of the situation, so you think there's
people's
more...
egos flush behind the screen.
I admit I have such an extremely fragile ego. Like I'll admit it. Like I'll think, if I get humbled, it's rage inducing, but whatever. I got owned, whatever. But it was the whole case with randoms is I would never want to play with randoms because it's just you're relying on somebody that I could
True. If I came along and I was still terribly shit at the game, which I absolutely would be, you would at least be like, well, I can't be too mad at him because we're mates.
I don't want to get banned from boards. I don't want to get. He knows where I live.
I'm sure that's how I maintained my friendship with Connor when we played Halo together, because like we would play like competitive like 3v3 and stuff like that quite often, right? Or teams, and I wasn't good at all, but some of the other boys were quite good. So they just, as a friend, I was allowed to come along, but I know I was not pulling my weight.
in saying that, actually, if you can remember, or just like think, like, what is your game that you have the most hours in easily?
WoW, definitely WoW.
How many hours would you say? Like, you don't have to give it, like, say 1,000 plus.
You can just say a duration of time. How long were you playing the game for? 3 years? 4 years?
No, it was hard. I think at some point I had close to a year's worth of time played.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it's
that tracks.
Yeah. So over time,
over the course of like 10, 15 years, there's
years worth of
if I pull up my League of Legends stats, I'd probably be similar.
Yeah.
For me, League of Legends probably most spending, because I did do a lot of skins in that, and first job was at Coles, so I was spending money on skins and whatever. But for me, it was Team Fortress 2, 5,000 hours.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, that game is It's a shadow of a
long
former
history.
glory.
Long history.
Very, very long history.
So going back about spending a lot of money,
Yeah.
just briefly touching upon it. So
whoops.
we've had a solid, it's been 1 week past the point of Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering basically selling out. And now that we've had the market dry up, I've never seen a market react so similar to something like Pokemon or any sort of this feels like something that I would see in like the sneaker market when things sell out. The amount of people jumping on from other games trying to make money off of Magic the Gathering right now, and the ludicrousness of the prices.
Absolutely.
Collector booster boxes are now north of 2,000. And then anything touching Final Fantasy, people are trying to make profits out of. I saw something pretty ludicrous. As an organized play store like Northern Boards, we received posters, Final Fantasy posters. We haven't put them up yet because we're planning to put them in frames and make them look nice because they're nice, legitimate, foil shiny
and
posters.
It's a compilation of them, I guess.
It's a compilation of the alternate
Commanders?
arts.
It's the alt arts of the Commanders, yeah.
Correct. But people are selling those posters online for $200.
Holy moly.
Yeah. And they're a free product that you're supposed to use as promotion. But I've seen people trying to sell them because anything Final Fantasy touches right now is gold. And
it does show the state of like how much money you can make as a hobby business where you have to be selling a poster
guess.
for $200.
It's insane.
It's psychotic.
We're basically panhandling over here.
Yeah, at this point now, right? And then this is a bit silly, but this morning I saw someone trying to sell the collector booster box, the empty box, for $50.
There was one on eBay when we were looking yesterday for $140.
I don't get it.
And it was sold. It sold. They sold it for $140.
I have to assume that is someone buying that so they can try and then pack it and sell it somewhere. They're trying to like. I'm assuming 100%. That it's the the negative view on it is that someone might be trying to scam someone else with an empty case.
Well, like Tom, who comes on the podcast, he does a thing where he has like a display cabinet where he puts all of his sealed product and stuff like that.
I get it. Okay,
and there's a lot. I've like on Reddit and looking at photos and stuff. There's a lot of people that do very similar things as that. So I would also say there's people out there who just were never going to spend $1,000, $2,000 on an actual collector booster box, but they might spend $50 on the box to then put a pack in the front of it, and then just have it on display. The same way as like behind us, we've got some like bundle boxes and stuff here. It's very similar to that because it's. I don't know. I was thinking the same as like the old like action figure boxes or this and that. It's the same kind of thing, And to be fair, ever since I feel like for me it was like Wilds of Eldraine onwards, where if you remember that collector booster box had like that green jelly.
Wilds of Eldraine was the first set to have collector booster.
No, Thrones was the first one. So you're correct. What I'm talking about is more the marketing and the effort they're putting into the boxes, like the display, I guess, imagery of it. Is like they're all like super shiny and the boxes are foil. They're like there's neon colors. They're really eye catching, and the effort they're putting into has really ramped up since the Wilds of Eldraine stuff.
You want to make it look premium,
and it's. I think it is such a shame once those boxes empty and they get thrown in the bin that there's so much effort. Somebody puts so much effort into that marketing and it just kind of disappears. And that's the same as any good advertising, but still, like I can get why people would want to collect those kind of things. And when it comes to when there's literally, I think I told you yesterday at MagicCon in the US, they were selling the boxes for $1,400 US, a collector booster box. And in the US, they're buying those boxes for like $280. That's the crazy markup. Like normally this hobby and this industry doesn't have anywhere close to those kind of margins. Like, not even close.
Normally we're complaining about
the margins. I think the closest we had a markup, and even all of us standing here were quite egregious, like damn about it, was the Lord of the Rings, the Holiday Edition. Which is still pretty steep. But even back then, everyone was like, oh, the One Ring's the poster arts. Everyone, even that Gandalf the White, you got buying.
Yeah.
In an audio podcast.
You're right about that. The Lord of the Rings poster art set was the highest margined product they'd ever produced, and not from because in Australia, the industry that like provides it to us, they actually don't give us MSRPs. They just say, oh,
I think it's global. Globally,
no. So
Magic the Gathering, no MSRP.
No, in America they absolutely do.
They do. So it's just Australia. It's just
Australia. Yeah,
Australia.
And it's because when you go to like XE and you do a straight conversion from US dollars to Australian dollars, you'll notice that there's a big difference between the price of what we pay to what they pay.
Right.
And some will say it's because of shipping. You know what I mean? You have to pay so much more money to ship it to here in Australia, New Zealand. But it's the same with everything. And we have massive global financial like shipping industries that are coming here every day. You can't tell me that your sea container worth of things costs you that much more to ship it here than it costs anywhere else, especially when big parts of it are coming out of like China or Japan or wherever the card printers are. So I can get it if you're shipping something from Belgium where like flesh and blood gets printed and that has to come all the way from Belgium to Australia, totally get it. but there's no reason we're paying, after conversion plus 20% extra money for like especially Warhammer and Magic product. That doesn't make any sense. So they don't give us MSRPs because for it to be real, it would be way off the mark. So they just let us come up with it.
It's somewhat the same with GW as well,
Absolutely.
or like Warhammer or tabletop figurines as well. It's the same thing. Like we did at one point, I forgot who it was, but we did the conversion with AUD at that time in USD, or even pounds like UK, and we're like, why is there an extra $60 on this?
Yes,
or
It's not straight conversion.
It's not
Like
straight
an extra
conversion.
$20 is one thing, or like 30 maybe, but I'm like 80,
Yeah, and
90.
I get a common
Really?
thing of when you have UK people come to Australia, especially through the Northern Boards, they'll be like, why does the Warhammer cost so much here?
Yeah.
So
I think it was someone who was British.
we
I
do.
don't
We
remember.
do.
Yeah,
We do
definitely
get
is,
people
yeah.
It definitely
come
was. They were like,
Yeah, we
that makes no bloody sense. And I'm
Working
like,
here,
yeah.
you have this conversation fairly frequently because like you have someone who may be on a lower income in England will play the hobby because it's a cost-effective thing to do. And then they come here and you're like, this is a rich person hobby. This is like having a luxury car or like, being a yachter or it's like somebody has a yacht, you know what I
They
mean?
come over here thinking Wayne Gower is Dal Keefe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they see an Audi out the front. They're like, oh, yeah.
It is. I think that's a big part of the shame is that a lot of these hobbies are gate kept from people who don't have the finances to play it. And there's other things. It's like people will print proxies and 3D modeling and stuff. But in Australia, really, it's just the same as the rest of the crazy inflation that we have on everything else. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, why are we spending $15 for eggs and the snake?
Why am I
shortage? That's a
spending
bad example,
why am I
but,
spending
you know.
$50 for a carton of Coke cans when I could spend $50 on 2 bottles of Jack?
At the boys' footy yesterday, right? He trains at West Perth, which is the arena in Joondalup. It was $4.70 for a can of Coke Zero.
Yeah, ludicrous.
A regular sized can of Coke Zero. And I feel bad charging $3 here in the shop, but $4.70. I was like, I tapped my card and I was like, what the fuck?
I bought a bottle of water for $4.80.
Guess how much my water was at the movies? Guess.
Oh, no
Just
way.
regular
They marked up on
$8?
water.
It was $6.90.
They marked up water.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
$6.90, brother.
A Red Bull that I bought like a few hours ago.
Yeah.
$8.
Where at?
What?
We're at the place
Oh,
in,
at the pool
at the
place.
pool
at
place?
the pool place, yeah, $8, and it was not the big cans. It
Yeah,
was
just
like
a regular
can,
small
$8.
Red Bull can.
$8, man.
God
bucks.
damn.
But they sell beer there, right? And alcohol.
Yeah, but I'm not drinking.
Yeah, I realize that. I think they're just pricing it because I think a nightclub charges you $7.
Yeah,
$8.
it
does.
does have a
They
nightclub
do.
vibe
They
to it
do.
though, so that makes sense. Yeah.
How'd you guys go? You guys any good at pool?
No, terrible. Trash.
Sporadically locking in and being the best thing of all time to then immediately whiffing it.
I play better by taking my glasses off
Interesting.
and not seeing where I was shooting.
Kai was the same, and he's even more
Call
blind
me a
than Kang.
Jedi. That's what I was, dude.
he just
Sensing the balls.
You just go back and it's just Kang spinning the cue around like it's a lightzightsaber.
You bet I was, dude.
Good old Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not a big drinker. I pretty much haven't drunk all this entire year, and I maybe drunk once or twice the year before. So, but back in the day, I used to drink a lot, and I would get exceptionally better at pool
Yeah,
the more
I think that's
drank.
the secret. I think the less you overthink it and you let it's like basketball, when you just don't overthink it. And
Just
shoot.
let the rhythm flow.
Yeah, let the
It's
rhythm
like
flow.
funny enough, like similar to like pub sports, darts. Jesus, darts is like they're drinking beers. Like they've done their throw. They're waiting for the other team to do their throw. They've got like a plastic cup because be responsible. You can't glass the opponent. Not anymore. Shame.
Yeah,
But no,
Australia banned
they'll
that,
be
right?
necking a beer and then they hit a 180 and everyone's all cheering. They're all beer hogs.
Every single person I see playing
Mad.
darts professionally looks like they're smashed.
Yeah,
Like
true.
There's a layer of sweat over their forehead. They're greasy looking and cracking that Pepsi.
Oh
yo.
yeah, baby.
Oh, you know
I
what?
noticed
I'm
the
gonna
other
join
day.
in on that one as
Wait.
well. Let's-
Ooh, ASMR. You've been back on the Pepsis pretty hard, Danny.
No. I've been off the Pepsis. You've
been off the
This is my
Pepsis.
first Pepsi. Probably
The
week
other
and a
day,
half.
I walked in and I was cleaning out the bin and I noticed a cinema cup Pepsi.
Oh, that was mine actually. Yeah, that was mine. That was mine.
Caught red-handed.
It was full of banana spins though, so it's a
Yo.
balance, right?
Yeah, I can't knock banana spins.
I went to the. I was actually going to hit you up, Kang,
Yo.
and see if you wanted to come. But in the end, I wasn't very organized.
What did you watch?
I went and watched 28 Years Later.
Oh, I heard it was good.
It was fucking hell good, man. Do you know they filmed that on iPhones?
No way.
The entire film is filmed on
Okay,
iPhones.
so every time the claim is filmed with iPhone, but it's filmed with iPhone with $1,000 worth of additional equipment and lenses.
Or, or a stabilizer.
They do.
Yeah.
They do have a stabilizer, and one of them was like a rig where it had I think 20 iPhones attached to it.
Right.
But there's no additional filming equipment. It's just iPhones.
Very impressive. Did
Yeah.
you notice it when you're watching?
I didn't know until I saw the thing after saying that it was.
Looking at the trailer and seeing how shaky it is at times, that kind of makes sense. Like shaky for dramatic purposes.
I
like
wonder if it's supposed to provide the atmosphere of like almost like a found footage, a little more authentic to the recording.
To be honest with you, I didn't really notice any of that. But the guy who did the director, I forget his name. He was when they filmed 28 Days Later, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it's I think it's almost 28 years to the month that he did it last time, or maybe 27 years. But he was one of the first guys to film on digital camera. So because they were still
he's trying to push a new narrative.
Yeah,
he's trying to push a new filming technique.
He created the first 28 Days Later on a home digital camera setup that anybody could buy. I think it was like $1,000 back then because if your cameras were because they were new, so it was more expensive than you would expect. But it was all on home gear because back then they were still doing like full multi-reel camera work essentially.
British filmmaking wasn't like super insane like it was now. It was like US was where you had the big bucks,
the
big cameras.
The filming with phones reminds me a lot of that 2010s era when the Blair Witch Project came out and everyone was like kind of trying out with that camcorder phone footage style deal.
Yeah,
or was it Cloverfield as well? Had that entire first person perspective.
And there was that the horror movie where the
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking
Paranormal
of.
Activity was mainly it was camcorder, but also camera for like security.
I wonder if we're trending back to that, like less edited, more first person style of footage, almost reminiscent of YouTube.
I think it's a big part of it is like as AI gets better and it's used for more and more and more, people will look for alternative ways to prove that their thing is real. You know what I mean?
See.
You're like, if this guy's filmed all the stuff on AI, obviously there's an editing point to it. But it's like there's only so much you can do with footage that's come straight off your phone.
We're on a tangent already, but speaking about AI, did you see that Mr. Beast launched a new program, like a paid service, where it uses AI to generate you YouTube thumbnails that are designed to provide you clicks, designed to give you like views, because they
just all have boobs on them.
Kind of. The idea, you're kind of on the right track, but it's like,
of-
you know how when you click on YouTube now, there's a general framework of how to design your thumbnail to make it more engaging. Like you'll have someone's face in it doing an expressive motion or arrows pointing at things.
I guess they already know what is going to get more clicks.
Correct.
Right?
So he's launched a program where you can put your own face or your own photos and it automatically generates you thumbnails to try and generate you clicks.
And that's already garnered.
It's a paid service.
That's already garnered some controversy because some of the YouTubers that thumbnails appeared in the video were like, I didn't give you permission to use my licensing or design, which is the typical thing.
So the thumbnails are using other people's stuff?
The AI can only really draw data from existing things. So it's drawing a lot of data from successful YouTube channels.
And the other channels are like, you didn't ask for that. You didn't want us to like give us permissions to use that for your thing.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. Beast just like, oh, I don't care.
That is weird though. Like it's because you're going to go watch a YouTube video and there's just another person on there, but that person's more popular, so that's going to get more people to look at it.
But then the AI photoshops your face into that exact scenario.
That's
the whole point of it.
That's amazing.
This is some peak Black Mirror, you know what I mean? Like just
we're living in that dead internet theory. I'm a big subscriber to it nowadays.
Oh, at this point, I genuinely, not to say I've been converted by your ways, Kang.
Yeah, join me in the Church of Depression and Nihilism.
Oh, I've been like that since. high school,
he's a
man.
prophet. Riley is the second coming.
I share a Facebook like community with a bunch of like elderly people, like my grandmother and her friends.
This is getting good now.
Yeah. Well,
my parents, I can tell my parents just watch AI content now.
Yeah, I've been sent a lot of stuff, and I'm like, that's not real.
Like I literally, my parents, like, I remember my parents back in the day would used to, go to my brothers and me and be like, oh, you're on your phones all the time. I wake up in the morning, like if on the weekends or whatever, and they're just on their phones.
I have a friend of mine at uni as a side hustle to like just generate passive income. He has his computer, his laptop that he's not using, and he just uses that to generate AI content for Instagram to make ad money. And he just makes some pocket cash. Generating ad revenue.
Just constantly doing it.
He has a thing. He has a thing where he has to still do a little bit here and there, but he'll just get it pumping out trash onto Instagram.
What's he selling?
I'm not sure, but
he's just making posts.
He just makes a little bit of ad revenue here and there. Even if he makes like $2 a video, but he makes like 100 a day, whatever.
It was like
true.
There was a brief period, and this happens on Instagram Reels from time to time that I see. Is you'll have like Minecraft footage on one screen or one bit, like similar to Subway Surfers thing. And then in the background, there'll just be a text to speech of a Reddit post they've taken off Ask Reddit, like a Reddit story.
Super easy to generate.
And easy to generate. You use the old school text to speech or AI voices. And you would just run that and you just farm, like say you do 10 of them a day, dump them, done. And you just rinse and repeat.
Correct. Another big thing now is channels are taking clips of movies and just pushing them through TikTok. And people will scroll past and watch a clip of a movie they like, and they will watch it for a little bit, and it's just an AI bot spamming out movie clips.
Even worse, whole movies.
Yeah.
There will be 300 parts, and you could watch a whole movie on TikTok before
Just
it
by
inevitably gets
scrolling
flagged.
through
Yeah,
Instagram, that's the ultimate. Like, you've turned your brain into a zombie, and you're just on Instagram,
Bro.
doom scrolling.
I don't know if it's the same thing, but I've been watching full episodes of like British TV shows.
I achieved peak brain rot the other night. I got into bed. I was like, 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, whatever, Instagram, doom scroll, whatever, till I black out. And I watched at least half of Cars 2. And it's so great. Not even a good one. It's Cars 2. I was like,
I get it.
Kang and I had 5 guesses.
Okay.
I would have gone nowhere near Cars 2.
I get it because for some reason the other day, I clicked on like some Instagram video of like the Flintstones movie with John
The
Goodman.
live action one?
The
Yeah.
live action one.
Oh, that one's a classic.
Old one. And I ended up watching parts of the Flintstones movie for 20 minutes until I forcibly was like, I need to get off the toilet.
Yeah, your legs have gone numb.
Yeah, I need to.
You can feel it digging into the underside of your thighs.
I would wake up in the morning and I'd just sit on the toilet, whatever, every morning as you do, like a bloke in your near 30s, and just like sit there doing reels and whatever. And my dad would be like banging on the door, going like, "You've been on the toilet, it'll be 30 minutes," and I'm like, "Oh shit, like really?" Like,
He just thinks you're jerking off.
Yeah, he doesn't hear the fapping anymore, so he thinks his son's passed out. I don't take morning shits though.
I'm a morning shit guy.
It's too cold. It's too cold, man. Yeah, I don't want my open cheeks touching
Is this
that
the
cold
part
seat.
where I advertise to the whole world the coffee and banana method?
Oh, Riley's patent pending. You got to tell me. Okay.
And I have killed Dad for that.
The way you describe this banana and coffee in the morning thing has got me terrified to try it. The other day I was
It's the potassium, man. It's a diuretic.
The other day I was like, maybe I should give it a go.
Potassium's
I was like, I was in the morning, and I was like, I normally take my shits in the morning, and I want to get it like, I like to keep the rhythm going.
The regular,
And I was like, maybe I should get a coffee and banana thing going. And then I remember hearing you describe what happens to you, and I was, no, I don't want this to happen to me.
It was the
No,
whole
I
thing
drink
of,
coffee and have a banana pretty much every morning. And
But
I don't have any
I don't know
problems
why
with
you're
this.
just.
it's
what happens
okay.
to you?
It's not problems. It's the thing of the problem with caffeine addiction, which I have, is your body gets to the point in the morning specifically that sometimes your body just doesn't function if you don't have
Without
a
it.
diuretic.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have a diuretic. But that also could dehydrate you. So it was the whole thing of like every morning, just like, get the body going as you were. Coffee and a banana. That was it. Just eat it, done, whatever. And then usually I'll go about my day and then, got to go to the John, drop the kids off at the pool, as the kids say. Drop the kids off at the pool. And everyone's like, it was...
That was my first time hearing that.
Really?
Oh, really?
I've never heard that sentence before.
That's like
dropping the kids off at the pool.
Yeah, that's a classic standard right there.
That's classic standard, yeah. But yeah, it was just, your guts, it cleans out your guts. It's like prunes. It's like prunes for older people, or like bran or porridge.
Hey, do you know what
It's the same
prunes
thing.
are?
What?
Do you know what a prune is before it's a prune?
Like a flower, right?
No, it's just a peach.
No.
Isn't it?
Prunes are...
I thought all fruits have to start off as a blossoming flower.
Because we
before they turn
know
into a
raisins are
fruit.
grapes.
Yes, correct.
Prunes are like plums, I believe.
guess.
Oh, yeah, no, it's
Like a
plums.
fig?
I just got
Yeah,
it mixed
they're
up.
dry
But it's
plums,
plums.
yeah.
Right.
But they just take a plum.
No, that makes sense.
I always just thought a prune was its own thing.
I did as a kid, like dates and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I was like,
Yeah.
they're like raisins.
Wait, what's
are
a
grapes.
date then?
All right, I was a real stupid
Dates
kid,
and raisins
right?
are like grapes.
Nah, grapes are grapes.
No, raisins.
Raisins
are
are grapes. What's a date?
The
That's a
16th of March.
I was
Hey.
probably 16 years old when I realized that sultanas and raisins were the same thing.
Yeah, it's just the American thing. It's like
But sultanas is just a brand of raisins.
it's like crows and ravens.
What? Oh, yes, the birds. Yeah.
It's a regional thing.
Okay, so a
They're all
date is its
corvids.
own fruit.
Sure.
Yeah. It says it's from the fruit of the date palm tree. They are typically eaten dried and have chewy texture.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so similar to prunes, albeit
Can you say that in a David Amber style?
the dates. Master Wayne.
Anyway.
that's what-
Okay, on to the actual today.
Today's
We've brought-
topic.
Today's real topic, now that we've bantered about 30 minutes. The Northern Board's classic patent pending 30 minutes of banter before we get into our main segment. Riley is a man of description. I've known you to be very good with the adjectives and describing and also stereotyping things. So what we've brought you on is a new segment, Riley Rates. We're going to go through the Warhammer army and factions, and we're going to have you stereotype what type of person plays this army.
I am so dead after this. I'm going to make a lot of enemies.
You might have to move states. We'll see you in the Northern Territory.
Oh, no, I'm going to Adelaide. No one wants to go there.
Whoa.
It's the city of churches, mate.
Is that the only thing they have? Is that what Adelaide's known for?
No.
I'd say goddamn, but I'll be banned from there as well.
South Australia's conservative? Is it between South Australia and Queensland? They're the conservative.
Adelaide
states.
has the most churches and the most strip clubs.
So they're like two sides of the conservative and not conservative.
Well, I was going to say...
Or it's just the guys at the church are like really...
Hell yeah.
Girls and strippers, nuns with buns.
Do you reckon the Vatican City has any strippers?
No, not in the city. Because the Vatican City is just the Vatican, right? So it's like, it just is that. I don't think there's any strip clubs in the Vatican.
I mean, if we don't want to get kicked off Spotify, we can do it. There's a joke there.
I'm sure
Like
there's
the Catholic
some...
Church and children, sure.
I'm sure there's some very close
choir boys.
outside of the
Ooh.
Vatican City.
I mean, in something choir boys, but anyway.
And also, Danny, you're also here as well. You can voice your opinion on how you feel about these armies.
Sure.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. And I am choosing not to become the enemy, and I'll be the neutral party.
I had my mate TJ message me today on Instagram. He's like, "Oh, do you have any of these?" And I was looking through it, and it was an orc army from like 20 years ago. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I have hoarded some of this stuff.
Damn.
But he's like, "Yeah, this is a good time." And I was like, "Yeah."
You being an orc player makes a lot of sense, Danny.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's up your alley.
Just smack it until
Green
it works.
All right, we're gonna start.
Tradies.
We're gonna go through all of them before finishing with the Space Marine chapters, and we're not gonna do all of them because naturally, not all of them are unique. Exactly. Me.
Yeah.
All right.
We're
Starting with a banger. The Eldari.
Oh, damn. Okay, are we talking about Eldari as a whole here, or
Yeah.
the craft world?
Or are we going to call them Eldar like they're supposed to be called?
Yeah, the Eldar.
Yeah.
Well, formerly called Eldari.
Who for you is the quintess? Like, who for you is the Eldar player? Describe me the Eldar player.
I mean, there is all the jokes that like most Eldar players are filthy cheaters or sweaty.
So they're
But
min-maxing.
not-
They're
but
the
not-
spikes, right?
Yeah, they're the
tryhards.
spikes. Eldar, notoriously, I don't know about earlier editions. I only really got into Warhammer, so not really qualified.
Yeah.
But mainly I looked in 8th edition, like looked at it, didn't really play it. 9th edition, I played like 1 or 2 games in general of Warhammer, and then 10th edition played a lot more. So I'm what they call a bit of a kiddie when it comes to this sort of stuff. Eldar, when I see a person playing Eldar, I'm like, either they played the game long enough, they're a devoted Eldar fan, or they're the sweatiest meta chasing. Just someone you don't want to be around. Like, they're there to win. They're dead serious.
Eldar have a pretty bad rep of being usually really strong.
Yeah.
I always consider the Eldar player to be the person who has like maybe a better job than the average person, but they know that they're better than everyone
Ooh,
else.
like a IRL high elf.
Yes, I think that's it. They're like a lawyer, and they'll tell you they're a lawyer when you didn't even ask. Like, why do you need to know what their job is?
I
You
hate
know what I mean?
elves.
Or they do CrossFit.
Yeah.
Or they tell you what university they went to. You're like, all right.
This is why I'm racist to elves. Yeah.
Eldar is, it can be a mixed bag.
Moving on, Drukari.
Degenerates. Absolute degenerates. Like, again, Drukari are kind of the thing of like, I've known a lot of people over the years with Drukari, like, and friends of friends who have described other Drukari players. And it fits into either 1 or 2 categories. It's either degenerates, but they know it, they kind of wear it as a meme and go whatever. They're edgy and they're joking.
Sexual
like,
deviance. Even.
or they're just edgy.
It's the horny pain. Like you gotta be.
There's regular horny and then there's pain horny.
Like they're like edgy, but they're ironic about it. They know they're memeing, flaming skull t-shirts, sort of funny. Or the other half is goth chicks.
To me, it's the exact same thing as the lawyer, where they overshare, but they're just oversharing in another way that you didn't ask.
Yeah,
for,
they
you
go
know
to
what I mean?
swingers clubs
Yeah,
every weekend.
yeah, they're telling
lot
you
of
stuff,
tats.
and you're like, oh,
It's you're in the courtroom being like, I should have went for the other lawyer. Where's the higher lawyer when I need him?
or it's like, it'd be like, you'll be having a game across the table and somebody rolling dice, and you're just like looking through your book for a rule that you don't understand, and the guy's like, yeah, my missus did this, and you're like, what the fuck? what are we doing?
So
I didn't ask.
So Shibari, right? And everyone's like, no.
No. Ooh, the Drukari player is the person where you don't want them to show you what's on their phone.
To be fair,
I
though,
think that's another faction coming up. This is the close. This was the formal one until the other faction.
I feel like in the 80s they really set it up for defeatism though, because some of the OG ships for the Dark Elder had like
The
naked
slave girls?
Yeah, naked slave girls
what's
on
his
it.
name? Asmodeus Vect or something. Asmodeus Vect. Yeah, the main OG of the Dark Elder.
So it was really set right from the beginning of like who this was targeting. You know what I mean? Like there's somewhere every couple of months there's a guy having a tiny little metal woman and he's just painting titties on her.
Yeah. The Drukari are definitely still remnant of that 80s style of like metal.
Yeah, I see.
like
Yeah,
jagged,
metal.
edgy
yeah,
metal,
like Iron Maiden metal. Like they could, the OG ones had like big peaked helmets with like white like hairlines coming off them. You know what I mean? Like very much like
the spiky horns, jagged blades, sort of like pauldrons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
80s dark metal sort of stuff.
absolutely, yeah.
Cool. All right. Gene Stealer cults.
Gene Stealer cults. I tried to get into them. They're an army that's very difficult.
Hold on. I can describe Gene Stealer cults.
Yes, as in they are a minority and a half. I tried to get into them because I really like Mad Max sort of vibes. I actually painted one of the bikes as like a FIFO guy. He had the high vis and everything, he had the Oakleys and everything.
He's holding a beer instead of a weapon.
I actually got a beer in his hand. I tried to do FIFO Gene Stealer cults for me because Australia, you know, like get on the beers.
That is pretty funny.
One, they're a pain in the ass to paint. Pain in the ass. Like intricate sort of work, flesh and like material.
Yeah,
and
you gotta get used to
everything.
painting
And I
flesh.
hate painting flesh. So in the end, like Gene Stealers overall, I think the Gene Stealer player that can actually play them well, I respect that because the best thing about Gene Stealers, and this is even though I don't play meta, you're gonna have that thing of Gene Stealer players will just absolutely dominate a tournament out of nowhere, and everyone will be like, "What the?" Just
Yeah,
Are they
actually-
high on the meta at the moment? Are they?
no.
Not great. So, but they usually every now and again they'll spike in ratings because it's a one player who min maxes. They're really, really good at playing Gene Stealer cults. The meme of Gene Stealer cults is that no one plays them, which is kind of true. But the people that do play Gene Stealer cults and are dedicated to that faction usually rock other people's worlds.
And the best because no one knows how to play against them
Yeah.
because they never see them.
Yeah,
And they're a really cool faction. No bagging Gene Stealer cults. They have a really
They
cool
are
theme.
the traditional like Eldars will say they're all about ducking and weaving game behind cover because they're very squishy. Gene Stealers are guerrilla warfare manifest. Their whole thing is to like deep strike or burrow mechanics wise in and out. Like you're leaving the battlefield. You're not hiding or like dashing behind cover. You are.
They're saboteurs.
Yeah, they give me a real
Saboteurs.
Gangs of New York kind of vibe where
Yeah.
it's like guys fighting in the streets, right?
Or you know like IRA. You know up the road and all that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
here's a pipe bomb.
the Gene Stealer cults was one of their very original armies designed for 40k, like before it was 40k, like in the very first iterations in the 80s. And then it was kind of taken out of this like the entire game until I think probably like 8th edition.
Yeah.
I don't think it was maybe 7th, but I don't think it's definitely not any earlier. So maybe 8th edition. I'll put my dollar on. But it was brought back in at that point, and they had a bit of a rewriting and retweaking to their lore and their story. So their stuff is really interesting, and it is. You know, when they come up with other things like the new dwarf guys, I forget the name of them.
Votan.
The Votans, like, you know, that's a whole new addition, and people were like, well, where have these people been for the last, 30 years of real time and 40,000 years of fake, story time. But whereas the Gene Stealer cults have roots in the very early days of like some of the first models.
They were referenced a lot in the early lore.
Absolutely, yeah. Like some of the first 100 models, like individuals for like the D&D version of 40k, some of them were Gene Stealer cults. So it's definitely there,
So speaking about Leagues of Votan, how do you feel about Leagues of Votan?
I didn't play near the end for Knife Ed, but obviously there was all the uproar about them being insanely overpowered. But that's just GW just trying to sell models, to be honest. That aside, I think they're kind of cool.
Leagues of Votan are weird.
We got a few League of Votan players here, right? I know
do,
Brandon
we do.
plays them.
Nathan.
Shout out to Brandon.
Yeah, and also
Nathan as
Nathan.
well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nathan plays them.
Leagues of Votan are a faction that people wanted for a really long time. They really wanted. For a lot of fans, the idea of dwarves coming back into 40k was a popular idea. But the problem is they came out, and then a lot of silence happened. Nothing really became out of
It's
it.
because it's like they're real generic as fuck, man.
The funny thing is, lore-wise, they're not really. They actually found a way to be somewhat unique. The problem was when Votan released, unlike other factions, no book,
Yeah,
no
very
extra
little
lore
was
added
given
to their
for them.
characters. There was
GW
references in the
kind of
codex.
dropped the ball.
That was it. They just kind of released it, and then when that's it. I don't know if that was because they released it, then everyone roared about how broken they were, so they put the brakes on. But the one thing about
Yeah, maybe the
Votan-
book they were about to release was going to make it even worse.
Yeah,
And they were like, ooh.
yeah, but no, nothing can be as bad as like Grey Knight's Mary Sue though. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level of like.
I just think that like the aesthetic of them is very like, the color schemes that they used was orange, and it was like, which is already orange is very much like a stop color. Like when you see it, it's like the human sees it as a hazard. So it's like you already mute
Right.
that
That's
in your
why
brain.
it's used for high vis.
Yeah, and it's that, and a lot of stuff was very rounded, not a lot of like detail or too like and I'm sure there's people out there that love it. They're gonna hate this opinion, but they're just very basic. And I think if they'd gone for more of like a space like Irish dwarf or Scottish dwarf, or Scottish dwarf, I should say, like kind of thing where it was like, drunk guys in space. It's like, it doesn't have to be full meme, but it needs a bit more character to like maybe pick people
That's
up
what
along the
people
way.
are hoping with. Like, I think Votan is like the last codex of Tenth, or at least the last batch with Drakari, and they might get something there. We'll see. We'll have to see.
All right.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Necrons.
Necrons. I hate playing against them with their stupid
Necrons for me is the old school Warhammer player.
Yeah.
Definitely, they've been around for a while because Necrons were kind of like the dominant, fourth ed faction.
Yeah, they
Very
were. Yeah,
strong,
and well, as of late, with all of the Catan, quite heavily. But that's more of a design problem. But Necrons, I like their aesthetic. I like that they're, as much as they're a very basic army looks wise, like just metal, and obviously some of them are a bit more blinged out, like the Overlords and stuff, and obviously the Silent King, like Serac. You can get away with a lot. Like I've seen people do like Necrons with like a marble effect. I've seen people do them with like stone looking effect outside of the usual metals.
Necron is the guy who doesn't want to spend too much effort painting their army, but still wants a painted army.
It is the Mr. Bean old video of when he puts the paint can with the bomb. You just go into a room with a can of silver spray paint, put a fucking, or pardon my French, put a C4 in there, leave the room, and just
let it paint the room.
Paint the room, and you go, cool, 2,000 points, battle ready.
Spray lead belcher, dip null oil, you're good to go.
I feel like Necrons have had the biggest overhaul of their models. Like if you look back at their models 15 to 20 years ago, it was all the same things but completely different. So like the scarabs and the pariahs and like
They
all this.
stopped being Egyptian.
Yeah, they're very much so. They tried to pull away from
They're
that.
really, like even the Silent King now, and even Imatech, like names aside, obviously, very Egyptian. But the aesthetic, unless you really focus on it, you're like, oh, there's a bit of Pharaoh stuff looking there. But
I would say they've gone way more towards the like cybernetic robots aesthetic of it rather than the classic like
They were supposed to be Tomb Kings.
Yeah.
The skeleton Tomb Kings.
Yeah, they really tried to like pull themselves apart
like
from
the
there.
Cryptex still kind of have that because they have the chin sort of pieces
Definitely.
that Egyptian pharaohs have, like those sort of ones.
Yeah,
They still have like the Canoptex still doing the Cryptex, but the generic Necrons don't really have the Egyptian sort of feel outside of like their symbolism or symbols.
Back in the day, they were the absolute worst army to build because the warriors were really easy. You put them together, but they had those little clear rods that go into their guns. Fucking nightmare. And everybody, if you didn't paint it in parts, then eventually you'd end up painting over that rod, which was kind of annoying too. But all of the other models were like the biggest metal models you've ever seen. And they had a lot of I can't even remember what they call them now, but like the flying kind of like beetles that are quite large. Those things are super heavy, and the bases they went on were really small.
Destroyers?
Yeah, I think it's destroyers.
Destroyers,
Yeah. Oh yeah, because the destroyers back in the day, they used to be like beetles with guys poking out the top of them.
Yeah.
And now they look different again, but it's all the parts were just all over the place. And it was like really lots of metal. Like the wraiths look completely different to what they used to look like as well. And those things were like really heavy bits of metal on really skinny bits of metal. So quite often they'd be bent, or people would leave them in their car and they were drooped over.
Like a hot day in Australia, it's just a mound of metal, and it's like, resurrect, please, please rise again.
I do wonder how many people's models melted in the car on like a hot Aussie Christmas day or something,
I reckon Australian sun has taken a couple armies out there.
Sun bleached,
All right, so moving on. All right, this should be a fun one. Orcs. How do you feel about orcs? The classic villain of the story.
Classic
outside of
villain
chaos.
orcs.
I imagine them as a guy who has like maybe just come back from the gym and wearing like a basketball singlet, you know?
Yeah.
All I can think of because of their North England accent is like, come on, Terra, score some Krogan goals. You know, it's just peak banter.
Yeah, take plastic middies and run them forward.
Yeah,
gameplay.
Let me just turn this engine on because I said so. Day in the life of a true orcish geezer. Like, that's all I can think of with orcs, and also the sheer amount of firepower.
But the orc player is always the fun guy to verse. You know he's not going to take the
winning's
game
way
too
less
seriously.
important, right? Yeah.
we say that, but most men are orc players.
I also feel like orcs produce the best memes of like all of the games put together, right?
Absolutely.
Like there's one go that's going around at the moment, and it's what if the emperor's only alive because the orcs believe he's alive?
Yeah,
you know, like they imagine
they
things
got
into
all the,
existence.
they got all the crazy lore, and they
the
have
orcs
all the.
respect him.
Yeah.
The orcs actually respect him because they see him as a god of combat for the humans. Like he's the humans' god of war, and they're like, that's a sick. We keep fighting because the humans keep fighting.
And it definitely helps that they're the comedic relief faction of the universe. In a universe that is so grimdark and takes itself seriously, the orcs are not anything but serious. Cool. So we all love the orc player, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like
I think every orc player I met is like at least somewhat chill.
Now on to the opposite. How do we feel about the Tau player?
I think
There was a sigh.
Okay, gameplay Tau, a bit of a sigh because Tau until recently, where they've tried to do a bit more of the melee or close quarters combat.
Nowadays, Tau aren't I haven't considered Tau very OP for a very long time.
They're not even OP. They were just annoying to play against because it was just a gun line. If you even had your toe hanging out, you were dead.
It's a faction that suffers from. It would be an amazing thing in like a video game, and if you follow the lore, the way they've been set up in the game makes the most sense. But gameplay wise, it's where there's a disconnect between what is good for the game and what is makes sense for the lore. Because 100%, like if same thing in reality. Like if these two things were things that actually happen, the tower shooting you from 3 tables away. They're not getting anywhere near you. They're going to laser the shit out of you. And it's like they suffer from that because now they're trying to make them like melee guys, which
they're trying to diversify what Tau does.
Yeah, like skirmishing, sort of like similar to Eldar Ducking and Weaving, but it's more with mechs and like the idea of like they still got gun line to themselves, but they like assist each other with shooting. Like they're all about like line of sight and like, oh, I could see him, so these guys can shoot better.
Yeah, I feel like Tau caught a bad rap as well by being introduced as the good guy faction in a world that you're not supposed to have good guys as well.
They are,
but now they've come back.
Yeah, but they're kind of good guys, like as in the same as like your local government councils.
Correct.
Good guys.
But now they've
like they're doing the job.
They've turned the law around.
They're still taking your tax.
Now there's a lot of bad things inside their own empire.
The Tau are
very Halo Covenant style of corruption.
The Tau are basically in a period of time now where the humans were like peaking. They have like the Tau currently are having the best golden age they have, but it's slowly going bad for them. Like humanity, where and then plummeted.
The best part of their writing is from the perspective of Commander Farsight, right? The rebel enclave,
who's against the whole notion.
They're just trying to push back against the whole Tau greater good,
brainwashing and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also Tau have the stereotype, obviously, that because they are very Gundam pilled, as they say,
the anime Gundam player,
weebs or like anime people will flock to this army first.
Yeah,
because it's mechs and stuff. But that's kind of gone past recently. I mean, anime's become more mainstream now. So I mean, everyone who plays Warhammer probably has watched anime as a kid anyway. Yeah. So it doesn't matter which faction now.
All right, Tyranids.
I remember in Ninth Ed watching Crusher Stampede happen, but that's a whole nother broken thing. But that's big.
For me, the Tyranid used to always be the cool guy. Like he just wants to play like the interesting side faction to the Warhammer universe, the aliens. He kind of maybe watched Aliens when he was a kid and really likes, the idea of like Starship Trooper bugs.
It's funny you say that because I always imagine it as the guy that's happy to get an STD. He'll just deal with it. he'll just get the antibiotics later. Yeah.
He'll adapt the herpes.
And Tyranids were the classic horde faction of I'm just going to run a ton of things and throw them at you. But then in recent times, Tyranids are now more and more of I'm going to be a meta, min-max kind of guy.
Yeah. They've gone through a really strong phase where a lot of the players who are playing it casually are maybe ramping back because they don't want their friends to think they're trying to be meta. And then you see in a lot of the tournaments, that's what's really on top of them.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. Tyranids were a faction I really like the look of because I love Starship Troopers. That whole idea of the intelligent alien bug hive mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they have a decent variety now. You can either go really big bugs, small bugs, ripper swarms, etc. I
have seen a few people over the years do 3D printed models of their Tyranid list is just all the bugs from Starship Troopers.
Yeah, that makes
pretty
sense.
Fucking cool.
All right, now on to the juicy part, which is the Chaos section of all the factions. Starting with just classic Chaos Demons, just all-encompassing Chaos Demons.
It's just a mix.
I feel like the Chaos Demon guy. For me, the Chaos Demon player is the person that just wants to run all the big monsters.
Yeah,
they just want to play the big monster mash with Be'lakor, Keeper of Secrets, and then just go nuts.
The thing of Chaos Demons, it's like a bag of Skittles. You want to eat a bit at a time, get different flavors. But when you're playing Monster Mash with all the different demons and armies, which lore-wise might come together and fight, for the sake of screwing over the Imperium or just anything that is in chaos, it's like eating a whole bag of Skittles at once. It's just sweet, it's saccharine, it's too much. To each one who wants to play like Rotigus, like the big, great unclean ones and all that, mix it up, sure. Lore-wise to me, and I look at it and I'm just like, it's a mess.
It's funny because this is where the age starts to show for me, right? Because to me, the Demons player was always the frugal player who wanted an army for fantasy and 40k. And they would just they would slot it into like homemade bases or homemade movement trays off of a cereal box or something. Yeah. And they would play it in both of them. So it was always that guy. And I think it's like Yeah, obviously that with the leaving of fantasy and it changing to something different only recently. Obviously that you guys are a bit younger, so it's a very different optics to what you see there. You know what I mean? It's like to me, it was always that guy who's like, maybe he's more disciplined or more frugal. It's like I want to play these hobbies with my mates, but I'm not going to buy every new stupid model that comes out. So I'm going to get some stuff on eBay and I can play both of these games.
Done.
Yeah.
All right. Death Guard.
Funny enough, smelly memes aside, I've not. Like, Kane, you've played Death Guard for the most part.
My first army was
most Death Guard players I've met, and I'm talking about like 9 out of 10, didn't smell bad at all. Actually, you guys well groomed. The only time
we're the opposite of what we are.
And the only
you guys well groomed.
Yeah, the only
which is a lot because a lot of people here are not well groomed.
And the only one guy that I knew that like smelled a bit off was because he had just come from work and he's a blue collar worker. So I was like, that makes sense. Like I come in here sometimes smelling like death, and I'm like, hey, I'm not a protagonist in a Death Guard.
I'm not trying to represent my army.
I just smell like death because I've been lifting stuff all day or been in soot.
Obviously, bias aside, because I used to play Death Guard. Death Guard are an interesting faction because they're never really OP. They kind of always sit in that middle of the rung. Someone that just wants to play a little bit of everything. They're an army that does a little bit of shooting, a little bit of melee, back and forth, but still like chaos. They like that body horror aesthetic.
It's like the inevitable, like, I am screwed if I
It's the guy who doesn't want to, also still the guy who doesn't want to spend too much time thinking about painting their army.
Correct.
Just
That's what I was.
a bunch of Angrax Earthshade everywhere, go.
Yeah, and you don't have to have anywhere near as many models. Like, it's like...
It feels like, this is, again, another deep cut. You know the steamroller scene in Austin Powers where it's like the whole movie, it's slowly approaching the guy and he doesn't move? Yeah. That is, if I do not actually play smart and kill these Death Guard or play evasively, inevitably, I am just dead. It's just,
they're the budget-friendly army. I don't know if it's nowadays, but for a long time, Death Guard were a very budget-friendly army. There was a lot of good starter kits and a lot of cheap second-hand minis for them.
The starter kits were a big deal because you could pick up those things and you saw those like on second-hand sites and stuff fairly frequently as well. So it was always something that was pretty readily available.
All right. Emperor's Children.
Censor sound effect for about 20 minutes. But no, the Drakari, Emperor's Children, that's the new age.
That's the problem.
Degenerate.
Emperor's Children players are the problem.
Degenerates.
It's funny
Someone checked that man's hard drive.
From the early days of the hobby where they were like, it was 80s, early 90s where they didn't care, there was no such thing as censorship. You could say whatever words you wanted, no matter if it was racist or sexist or whatever. And everything was totally fine. And then things became slowly more PC and they started to remove things like in Warhammer Fantasy, and I don't know if they did with 40k, but they removed Slaanesh from the picture completely.
Slaanesh got a massive redesign on the 80s, 90s style of the hedonism involving a lot of like sexual themes.
Yes.
To more based around like the hedonism of like beauty and music.
Yeah, but the reality is that's the same fucking thing.
Correct.
And then I feel like of late they've scrapped that a little bit and they've just gone straight back to boobs. And like, it's still a game predominantly played by like 99% men. And it's like men in there between 20s and 50s. So it's like there's nothing wrong with a bit of boob, here and there. You know what I mean?
Like, a bit of boob ain't going to hurt at all. It's just how grotesque you want to go at. And that is...
Culture's becoming less conservative.
If we have to be okay with OnlyFans being like how you make the most money in the world now, I think it's okay to have a bit of boob on a snake.
I mean, some of these, like, even like a tangent, even these card games sometimes, like, jeez.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Some of the art on some of these is like, damn, Slaanesh can get away with, maybe someone that has 4 titties on there. And again, that depends entirely on how the person paints that. Yeah. They can just have it whatever, but then you get somebody who's like getting the microscope out to do like moisture marks. You're like, okay, bro. Like, okay, mate, here's the paddy wagon. You can go to prison.
It's funny because I had a different experience where it's like there's a guy that I knew painted. He really wanted like the aesthetic of the Slaanesh, but he didn't want to be weird, so he painted all the boobs to look like they had armor on it.
Just commit. Yeah. The Slaanesh and Emperor's Children, I feel like cop a bad rap because there is one side of people that get into the Emperor's Children because the boobies, and the other side of Emperor's Children players where they're. We have, for example, Andrew here, who's a really talented painter, and he just likes the elegant look of the army. And you can have a chaos army that isn't just spiky and sinister looking.
Yeah, they offer something far more like elfish and aesthetic. Yeah. And there's a lot more effort that goes into those models, I feel like. Yeah. It's a bit of a tangent way of side, but all the AOS Slaanesh models, like Age of Sigmar
Fantastic.
models, are amazing. Like some of the most effort that's gone into any models ever is gone into those.
I feel like the Age of Sigmar Slaanesh was where they trialed and error that new big Slaanesh redesign, and they realized that it landed well with people, and they kind of translated that over to 40k.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah, like some of the like the armory pieces and maybe the
regalness of the look.
Yeah, and it feels more like I'm gonna get some of this wrong, but more like the Babylonian, like
Very. It reminds me of almost that like Roman style of robes and togas.
Yeah. Like it's a cult who's about to do some like culty kind of stuff, but there's a bit more nuance to it. Like it's not just
You guys,
laying the
like
goods out
Conan the Barbarian? You guys watched that Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan movie?
Yep.
Where they had that snake cult?
Oh yes,
That's what it reminds me of.
I was thinking more of the British royal family, but I mean, before I nearly get shot.
Good morning.
Next army.
All right, Thousand Sons.
Well, I mean, I play Thousand Sons. I did the easy thing of not painting trim. I just did them as like terracotta, sort of damaged stone, sort of like warriors or
Fast and effective look.
fast and effective because I was like, screw doing that trim.
It is, as like someone who's known you for quite a few years now, Riley. It is interesting that you have chosen an army who has inherent daddy issues.
And he's very red, like me when I'm playing League of Legends. No, like Thousand. The problem is with me is that like I've picked two armies. We'll get to the second one soon enough. That are very hard to play. Not even with 10th ed, 9th ed, they were very hard to play. But I just like the aesthetic of them. It's just by consequence that it was like, oh, I have to think about this army.
Yeah. Thousand Sons I'm the Brainiac player, and I'm gonna do really cool things, and then no, nothing worked, and then explode.
And meanwhile, I'm just like, Doom Bolt this man, and then fail. I'm like, Doom Bolt myself.
I feel like Thousand Sons were one of the armies. Like that's an elder that suffered the most when they went away from having like magic phases in 40k.
That psychic phase.
Yeah, because like they were them and maybe Grey Knights and some of these others that really dominated the psychic phase situation. Like
they lost their ID.
Yeah,
they lost how they feel to play.
Big part of their identity.
In the Codex now, they kind of have that. It's still in shooting phase, but the way psychic phase works in Sigma, in terms of casting spells with dice rolls, they've given that back to Thousand Sons. We don't know when Grey Knights come up, they might do something similar.
I feel like 11th ed, they're going to bring back the psychic phase. This is them trialing it out. Can we bring back that complexity of the psychic phase? Because people really want it back.
And I think people finally accepting that Warhammer Fantasy is as popular as it actually is them realizing that people want some of this like high fantasy brought back to 40k, because 40k was never intended to be a sci-fi thing. Like all the early writers of it say like this is a fantasy setting. There's guys with swords and chainswords and vehicles we're going to slam into each other, and they're all knights fighting monsters. It's like it just happens to be a sci-fi kind of thing because they've got spaceships, but there's nothing else about it is sci-fi whatsoever. And I think that magic phase is a real integral part of it, especially when the entire storyline is built around this alternate like plane of existence that is pure magic that they draw from, and that's what warps and is the chaos, right?
Thousand Sons overall, it's a solid like flavor at the moment, at least. Like to some part, like Sorcerers, Magnus.
It's my favorite aesthetic for any of the Space Marine chapters. Like the Blood, the
World Eaters.
No, the Blood Angels are my favorite chapter, but I do think the Thousand Sons have the best aesthetic overall.
Definitely.
And I like when they lean in hard into the like the Egyptian style stuff.
Speaking of
All right, on to World Eaters.
Speaking of blood, World Eaters. I've seen a lot of them like coming from a lot of players here play World Eaters, varying degrees. Go face, go hard, smash. They're
an aesthetic forward chaos faction. Someone that loves chaos will love the way that World Eaters encompass the aggression and the viciousness that chaos wants to be. They have some of the best looking chaos units normally.
That classic Khorne with the like Khorne model with the shape of that helmet, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like the Khorne sigil, like the crossed 8 effectively on there.
It's such an iconic helmet look.
100%, yeah.
And then there's also a small subsection of World Eater players, which are gym goers. I love that Dean Gill, who's a resident here, plays a lot of Warhammer, and also like goes to the gym a lot. Yeah, World Eater player.
Yeah, 100%. What's Kyle play?
Big Jack dude. He plays Black Templars.
Black Templars. Okay,
but that makes sense. But they're also
Black Templars like the chat of
Black Templars are like
that's the dude who like reads a lot of history books, but we'll get to that. We'll get to the Black Templars in a second. All right, so that's chaos. Nice. All right, moving on to, we're going to touch a little bit on the period before we start on the Space Marines. We're not going to touch a couple of the Space Marines. We are at that 1 hour mark now. Starting with the Adepta Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle.
Gooners. Like, Emperor's Children and Dracarys aside, okay, some Sisters players, they play for the fun
It's
and
the
whatever,
Tip
but
Fedorum Lady faction.
it's nuns with guns. The amount of art I see is ridiculous. And I'm not even looking for this stuff.
Oh, I'm looking for it.
I know you
I
are.
get it.
Gooners.
I'm into it.
Like, there are people that play Sisters, and I'm just like, yeah, I know why you play Sisters.
And this is, again, it's me being old, but I think Sisters are an amazing army and it looks really cool, but they existed best.
They started as the BDSM.
Yeah, well, I think they exist best in their old format of like Witch Hunters, where it's like Grey Knights.
That was a way cooler idea.
Yeah, it's like you have Grey Knights in there, and you have Sisters in there, and you have the like Imperial
the
officers.
zealous ecclesiarchy style.
Yeah.
And I think when you separate them up too much, it just gives people new armies to collect, which I think is part of like the marketing scheme of selling more models. But I think they're all together, like the Sisters of Silence and stuff in there as well. And when you do look at all the videos that they release for the Warhammer TV, they do a fantastic job of then having all those guys mixed together and operating together,
Making the Imperium feel like a moving unit.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's how they should be approached on the tabletop for sure.
Gotcha.
And I hope one day they get back there.
I think, the Flavor of Miracle dice is still around, all these editions. I think flavor-wise, they're on the head. Players' base obviously can vary from people who like that sort of nuns with guns aesthetic to obviously people who are, gooners.
Yeah.
The Sisters of Battle have some of the coolest aesthetic going on in the minis. Their minis are beautifully intricate with a lot of moving parts. They even have basically a diorama piece in the Triumph of St. Catherine.
Yeah, not even-
that little piece. Beautiful. But obviously, you can't escape that whole, you're playing
What's the
BDSM
gold fellas
nuns.
called again?
Custodians.
Yeah, Custodians, right? I didn't
Yeah.
know we were touching on those, but I do think as well is like the Custodians are supposed to be super limited in numbers. It doesn't make sense a whole army is being fielded of them.
Correct.
You want a bit of Sisters, a bit of Custodians.
Well,
a
that
bit
was the
of
thing. Sisters
Sister
of Silence are kind of in the Custodians.
So
bracket,
let's just move straight into it then. The next one on the list is Adepta Custodes.
I think they should be all together.
Yeah.
So if you're playing them, I
have a grudge against the Adepta Custodes.
Yeah, I think-
they are way too OP and they don't make enough sense to be an individual faction. I guess I understand why you want to play them, but man, I don't.
I hear more complaints about Custodians than any other army in this shop. I don't play a lot of 40k. I'm
They're
in the
usually
lore.
either OP or not OP enough.
I played against Custodians all the time because my mate Dale Rip, I'm going to roast him here. But like the problem with Custodians, it's not that they're broken because they're definitely not. Like they feel broken at the time. It's just they're so annoying because it's a 50-50 if you hit them or even wound them. That's the problem.
Having that 4-up invuln all the time.
4-up invuln, and then it goes to like here's a once per game for I feel no pain. And I'm just like, get stuffed. But also at the same time, Henry Cavill, if you're listening to our podcast, please. If you still play
Henry
Warhammer.
Cavill single-handedly changed the image of the Custodes player into being like, Superman plays Custodes. It's like the Giga Chad faction now.
Geralt of
I'm like,
Rivia.
no, get
Geralt
out
of
of
Rivia
here.
plays Custodians.
Geralt of Rivia plays Custodes. I will say though, Custodes is also very appealing to people who want to play Warhammer on a budget-conscious mind.
Yeah.
They're a cheap faction. You don't have to get a lot of units. Your faction choices are quite limited, so usually what you get is going to be playable.
You're also
And if
one
you-
can of gold spray away
You
from
are
being
one.
done.
If you paint Custodes, gold spray, dip in Reichland Flesh Shade, you're golden.
Like,
Done.
I just
Done.
imagine the Custodians player being someone who's just like it's just an image of Henry Cavill, but then like the people chrome with spray paint, it's just gold.
Yeah. At the very minimum level, the skill floor to play Custodes is very low.
Yes.
The skill ceiling
Yeah.
is also
Yeah,
very
because
high.
you lose one squad, that is not
Pretty
even a
hard
kneecap,
game
that's
over.
your whole leg cut off. Like you're screwed.
All right, onto your faction over here, the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Toasters or boys.
Toasters.
Also an army that, even though in 10th got simplified, is quite difficult to play and is also very, very, very shit.
You chose mathematics to the faction.
Mathematics, the faction.
It is-
Adeptus Mechanicus is an army that rewards patience and learning how the army works because there's so many overlapping rules and mechanisms that make them good. Because individual Adeptus Mechanicus units, trash, doesn't do nothing. But if you combine all your stuff together,
very leader heavy.
all of a sudden we might be killing Space Marines.
It does
Yeah.
feel like the meme, the total meme army. You know what I mean? Like you've got these massive alien creatures with like cybernetic blade swords for arms. You got these huge like tanks and chaos wizards like throwing spells, and then you've got like beep beep boop boop
Hey, yo, you got some Qatari with a big old flintlock musket.
Yeah, it's
They got awesome aesthetic.
blows and it just boom, boom. And
There's
it just immediately his
there's
head just gets
that
disintegrated.
fucking
You're like,
guy with the go-go gadget legs.
Yeah.
And then
oh,
there's,
don't even get me started with that guy,
then
man.
there's guys on robotic horses
I love it.
that look like
They are the ultimate. Like they were like, we want the steampunk market. We're gonna lean in hard to be like, hey,
I haven't seen it
Flintlocks
yet, but I
and
want someone to
horses.
take those horses and put them into like there's those things that spin around a circle and you get them at
Merry-go-round,
fairs.
the pose.
Yeah,
Oh my
I want
Lord.
someone to turn it into one of those.
That is basically
because they just look like some goofy thing like that, man.
the problem with AdMech is that they can't make them too OP because when they become good, their shooting is oppressive and
Yeah.
they become part-time Tau.
We are suffering from the sins of early 9th edition where AdMech,
Which just
I think it was
blow
AdMech
you off the
Sisters and
board.
Drakari until like Crusher Stampede with Nids. Those three factions were the trifecta. Every other army got pushed out.
We did see a lot of AdMech go through the second-hand sales once they become like a bit nerfed. You know what I
Giga
mean?
nerfed.
They're usually
Beginning of
very
10th
popular.
was like-
What I've noticed with AdMech is that they're actually quite popular with new players because they get caught with that aesthetic. The aesthetic is so cool.
Guilty
The
as
Skitari.
charged. First army was AdMech.
Yeah.
The problem is, and I realized this later on, one of the worst armies to paint. Equal Gene Stealers, annoying to paint.
Just
I
because he's
painted-
lots of bits, right?
I painted Belisarius Call. Oh my god,
We're definitely
going to
We're definitely gonna do a like how like best armies to paint and worst armies to paint, and I feel like we're gonna do that with Eli. When
I
Eli
think
jumps on the
Eli is the
episode.
perfect for that because being the man himself. For
He's
painting.
probably painted enough to really understand it.
Oh,
Because-
trust
and
me.
AdMech are low on the tier of man. I don't want to paint this army.
Like people like getting the aesthetic, but then you're like, I will just base coat this and play it with my mates.
I've seen some real like spray painted red situation going on for those boys.
Red or black, yeah.
Done. All right.
I think that in the same vein as the Witch Hunters, I think they were supposed to be like with the Imperial Knights or whatever, and that was it's
Like Cult Mechanicus, nice, yeah.
100%. Like you have a bit of Skitari, a bit of these guys, and Mechanicum, and then you have a knight that's always comes with it, and then you only have to paint 50% of the models. But then knights became their own army again, and you separate these things that I think intrinsically would go together. Like I don't know in the lore if you're ever sending off a full army of like. Because the Skitari are like guards. They're like security guards. Why the fuck are they fighting on the warfront?
AdMech are normally just chilling on Mars. They're doing their own thing on Mars.
Yeah. It's like,
They come in to assist other things.
maybe in a story you'd have like, maybe a Tyranid attacks like a mech fucking guys, a base or something, and these are guys defending that. But they would never deploy these people on the front line.
9 times out of 10, it's the Skitaria sent out to do expeditions on these worlds, random worlds and shit, and they're like, oh,
Brother, send in a guard. What are we doing?
No, not even that. It's, I pressed a button, Tech Priest. Is that Necrons? And it's and the Imperium's like, fuck.
Yeah, they
sake.
trip over a fucking rock and they find a Necron. And they're like, oh shit.
And then they all just, you're like, oh man.
They sacrifice 2,000 guardsmen and 30,000 Askatari.
It is
Imperial dub.
And they bring back a single toaster.
You remember that from Star Wars, like Attack of the Clones, when they're chasing Boba Fett in that ship, and he releases that concussion mine. And it's like,
Seismic charge.
Yeah.
That's like I imagine there's like a Necron just accidentally finds a Skitari's like digging a hole, then finds a Necron, and it's like, and then just Necron.
Yeah, an
pour out
entire
the
solar
ground.
system is gone.
Yeah.
Destroyed it.
Start destroy.
Onto the faction that I play, the Astra Militarum, aka Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
Tanks. Do you like World of Tanks? This is being sponsored by World of Tanks.
Yeah. You're right, but I think the original game of 40K was designed after like OG World War II tank battles.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Like just classic World War II.
Yeah.
Well, way before Flames of War or Bolt Action, like real old period style. You really don't see them anymore.
Like World War 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But only 2.
You don't see these games properly anymore. That's what it was based off of, and I think it was such a hardcore faction of people really like love German stuff, but you can't love German stuff.
You can't
know
love
what I
German
mean?
stuff a little bit too much.
You can't like a Panzer
you-
line of these sick tanks is fucking cool, but you can't be doing that.
Yeah, there's that
So,
guy
but,
who's playing bolt action
like-
that might be drawing symbols a little bit too
Yeah, like,
close.
You can like
yeah.
driving a Mercedes, but if you go back a few decades, Mercedes were doing some also some peak
Astra
stuff
Militarum, the
on a
Imperial
tech
Guard,
level.
is for me the person that wanted to play that classic tabletop of army men shoot army men, but
Absolutely.
doesn't necessarily want to play bolt action and still wants to play Warhammer.
actual wargaming.
Yeah.
like proper like you're
They
prepping.
get caught into. For me, Astra Militarum is the common man.
Mm.
The idea of the common man in this unforgiving universe, and still as humans we're able to through the power of the human spirit and collective effort, survive in what is this unsurvivable universe.
To quote, before we go to the next one, to quote like a YouTuber I follow, like Bricky, who's also like on YouTube, like a lot of people react to him because of his Warhammer content describing the lore. A lot of guard players, at least US based, I guess, when you hit a certain age, you either become a massive history buffs or you're into smoking meats.
Yeah, it's like it's a meme for
the former.
It's the history nerd.
Yeah, the history nerd, the faction. Guard is like the main one.
Correct. And I feel like with Astra Militarum, you do get a very wide variety of people that play AdMech.
Yeah.
Not AdMech, Astra Militarum. Like you get people who just like watching, they watch the Predator.
Well,
and they're like, there was the
or Command and Conquer, which you did reference back in episode 10 with John.
You don't see it as much anymore, but like there used to be a lot of depth to Imperial Guard. Like there's the Krieg, there's the Catachans,
all
there's
different factions.
there used to
the
be
Catachans,
snow guys
the
and the desert guys. Yeah,
Tempest the Scions, the
for me,
the Scions is one of the coolest
the
ideas.
Valhallan Ice Raiders.
Yes, the Valhallan guys with the jump packs are
like
cool.
the proper Slav like Ice Raiders. And
for me, Astra Militarum is the faction that I watched Saving Private Ryan when I was 14 years old, and that stuck with me. And now I just play army men.
It is
that,
like
that opening scene.
I assume they'll come back to it at some point, but the Catachans were like one of the most popular armies that ever existed, and that's why their models that were like 30 years old were still in production just only a couple of years ago.
The Catachan,
because it was so popular.
The Catachan core people was hot because they were humans being badass.
Yeah. Well, it was a real big like the original, not Terminator, Predator. The original Predator movies was like I feel like that's what you see.
Yeah,
Predator and Rambo.
Yeah,
like Rambo. Yeah, because a lot of the female Catachans
dudes
as well
with absolute
look like Ripley
stacked muscles.
Yeah. But like a real cool concept, and I as an old guard, the Astra Militarum can fuck off. They're called Imperial Guard, and that's a perfectly fine thing.
It's the guard.
But the problem I have with Imperial Guard is that tank players ruined it all for us.
You bloody young kids.
Tankies.
There was this blog, not a blog, a forum. It was a forum that I used to go onto like decades ago. And it was this group in England, and they all only played Imperial Guard, and they only played Imperial Guard against each other. And they had different variations of these, like all the different ones. Because again, you had all the there was the snow ones and the desert ones as well, and they'd play them all against each other. But they would have like this whole thing where it's just like, it was essentially what we're saying. They were playing like a World War II tank battle, but they could be the good guys and the bad guys. Because there was Chaos Guard, and they would have them fight each other, but they just only played Guard.
So they really kind of just wanted to play boat action.
Yeah, I think so.
But not really.
Yeah. But what do you call it? So they'd play this game, and it it was like they were in their hobby club or local club, and when people wanted to join them, like, no, you have to have a guard.
I will say though, the very rare times,
have a guard,
the very, very rare times I've had the chance to play Imperial Guard versus Imperial Guard, those games are really fun, really interesting, super balanced against each other.
I feel at that point as well, you probably feel a bit more like the tanks and all the units coming together.
All the mobility of the tanks and the cover that buildings and ruins provide for your regular troopmen, it does feel a bit like
it's like designed
action.
for it, right? Yeah,
correct.
You can see them scrambling around their ruins.
Yeah.
How do you feel about old mate Magoo on the horse? What's your aesthetic opinion?
Lord Solar was a great mini because it really proved how creative Imperial Guard players can be with proxying.
Yeah, it was
So Lord Solar was such a cool idea that I was really into until they revealed the mini, and I was incredibly. It's okay.
Well,
I would say having that, actually owning that mini and seeing it in person, it's all right. There's a couple pieces here and there where the design could be better, mainly in the helmet, because the helmet makes him look way too goofy. And the easiest thing is to just head swap him. And my head swapped Lord Solar is not terrible, but the truth is, it just doesn't match any of the aesthetics. When people that play Astra Militarum want a gritty World War II inspired, like, I'm on the boots on the ground style army. I want a commander. I don't want this man with shiny pants. I want a commander who's leading an army.
And that's what I think I think the model is actually an incredible model. It just doesn't match at all what you're trying to achieve in the army. And that's why I used to like the old commissar models where you'd get a commissar or two with like a command unit. Correct. And that reminds you much more of how
a military structure works.
Absolutely. And you'd have this cool little unit that would move together. And maybe in the early days, you could get like a Custodes or a Space Marine that would follow along as like maybe it'd be a medic or like as like a guard. And he's, because you can't possibly trust the humans to lead themselves. There has to be a real leader along the way. And like, that's the person who's leading the army. And I think that concept was really cool. Plopping a guy on a horse, which would be like, it's just so, it doesn't matter if you're a Tyranid or
gives
you're a Dark
suddenly-
Elder. It just gives you a direct target of the person you're supposed to take out. That's fucking mental.
My problem is the Imperial Guard is an army that's not. It's not an army represented by singular characters. It is the army. You have a chain of command, and you feel like you're playing a World War game of every soldier is just there trying their best to survive.
Yeah.
And suddenly Lord Solar is, I'm supposed to have a main character for my army. Doesn't make sense. I don't want a main character. I want a named character. I want this is my commander. And he's leading his troops, his platoon into war.
And I've given him 10 essays worth of lore. It's like when you're a kid, it's just like your parents like arguing in the background, you with the Lego lore battles going on. It's the same level of just like in-depth dark
You can hear
lore.
them, they've closed the door, but you can still hear them screaming, and you're like, I will listen to this over and over again.
Come on, Dyke, man, destroy the village.
I do think you're right, though. Like, there's been such a push with Warhammer into this direction where you have to have these big,
Because that's how the narrative pushes forward, like the Primarchs.
Yeah, I think
named characters.
It's like, or the hobby has everything's like a display model now, rather than just like massive troops. And that is, to be fair, is better than just painting like 50 to 100
sells.
guard for your army. That's pretty annoying. But it's the armies have these these aesthetics and feelings for a reason,
Speaking of Primarchs,
All right, right before we quickly touch Space Marines, I didn't mention Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights because I'm going to roll them at the same choice.
Yeah.
They're just going to be the big Knights factions.
Yeah, big stumpy go.
big stompy go, big guns. You're playing 40k a bit differently, but I mean, hey,
They're playing Gundam, the faction.
you're playing Gundam, but church on back Gundam. You're playing holy Gundams.
All right, starting with the poster childs, the Ultramarines.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
Space
do-
Marines.
I don't
They're
hate the
Space
Ultramarines.
Marines. Moving on. All right.
I feel like that's everyone's starter army. Like,
Yeah,
so many people
they're
started with
great.
it.
They're great to play. They offer a lot of variety in how Space Marines play, but ultimately, not a lot to talk about.
Like-
Gilliman's cool. I don't mind Gilliman.
I see Ultramarines as George Lucas before the internet existed. He didn't realize that people hated Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones because the internet was at a point where you couldn't share information that easily. It existed and you could find specific things like websites, but there wasn't a good place, like there was no social media where people's opinions could be seen. It was still only people writing, real writers and like reviewers were like people who had jobs doing this. So they were writing fairly good stuff. And he didn't know until after Attack of the Clones that people hated Jar Jar Binks, like to the inception of Facebook and like MySpace at the time, that people hated this stuff. And he was really confused. He was like, I assumed everyone loved it. And he's like, he didn't know. To me, that's the...
Yeah, that's GW and being like, oh, why doesn't no one like the Ultramarines?
Yes, 100%. They're like, they're surprised,
It all came around with Space Marine 2, because when I went to PAX
Now
in Melbourne
people
last
love
year,
Ultramarines now.
everyone loved Ultramarines, mainly Titus, but just Ultramarines in general because of Space Marine 2 being such the game it was.
I would say it's like the old guard has like phased out of the game, and any new kid comes through and someone's like, oh, Ultramarines are lame, and you're like, what?
You're like,
it's the coolest one,
you're
right?
too young for that language. young
Yeah.
man.
They're literally
That's old
called
people
the
still.
Ultramarines.
Yeah,
All right, moving on to Black Templars, which you mentioned earlier.
Black Templars are the
Deus Volt faction.
Deus
right?
Volt, the Imperial
Crusade
Guard
faction.
equivalent of World Eaters, and that like they're very fast, very melee. I feel like it's kind of phased out now, but there was an old stereotype with the Black Templar players.
There is on the internet.
Yeah.
On the internet,
Can't
there
avoid it.
is the stereotype of the racist Black Templar player.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, there's
So is it black guys that are racist?
no.
to everyone else?
Almost kill me there.
There's a thing that people do. Okay, there's a thing that people do where there's a Black Templar subreddit, and people would like to click on the profiles of people who post on Black Templar subreddit and see what other subreddits they post on.
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a racist.
or he's a bit of a
Yeah. But obviously that's a meme because Black Templars have a crazy cool aesthetic with some of the strongest visual design, and I feel like the Black Templar players are normally dudes who just want to play knights, actual knights,
like genuine knights,
knights and
swords.
squires.
The new imagery coming through from those looks fucking cool, man.
The Execrator that just got revealed the other day.
They want to
Banging.
play medieval warfare.
Yeah.
They want to play.
Yeah, like they're
right.
OG, like again the fantasy aesthetic with 40k sword.
When you
Bang.
When you read the books, the Black Templars are what the what's the fucking Lions one's called?
Dark Angels.
Dark Angels.
Yeah.
The Black Templars are what you think the Dark Angels would look like in my mind.
Aesthetics would follow.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm expecting like
For me-
squires and knights and Excalibur, and then you get the Dark Angels and you're like, what the fuck
Well,
is
for
this?
me, we'll move on to the Dark Angel in a second, but for me, the Black Templars are medieval and the Dark Angels are Crusade Renaissance-y, Renaissance-y.
More like Camelot. No.
Yeah.
but that's to me those two are the same thing.
Gotcha.
And then like if you look at like stories and lore and like Excalibur and the stuff, the Dark Angel stuff, the Black Templar stuff is what it looks like. The Dark Angel stuff is more like a culty.
Gotcha.
Like
So should we just jump straight to the Dark Angels?
Yeah, I think
How do
so,
you feel
yeah.
about Dark Angels?
Yeah, to
Dark
me,
Angel
they're
players
more.
for me are a bit strange because they're a faction that's supposed to be one of the longest running ones with a lot of choice, but Dark Angel players, there's not a lot of them.
They're very sus.
They're very suspicious to me. Maybe a little bit heretical, even.
Maybe.
Well, they just like they look a little more culty, right? They're like all in robes and hidden and stuff
in
like
a
that.
circle.
The Lion has a fantastic model.
Yeah.
And Dark Angels have the prestige of being one of the old, like the first founding chapter, and they're elite. But other than that, I don't have a lot of opinions on the Dark Angel player.
Dark Angels, when they first came out, were like I knew every second person he was playing Dark Angels, but then it kind of just phased out.
They don't have as
They were very popular in like 7 and 8 as well.
And then
I
with
reckon
9
so.
for the Lions reveal at the end of 9.
Gotcha.
everyone was
All right, on to one of my favorite chapters as well, Danny, the Blood Angels.
Yeah. The Blood Angels are like the quintessential, like, these are the good guys, but are they?
Yeah.
They're the good guys with not Mary Sue sort of stuff. They actually have faults. They have characters that are very like complex.
They're pop got murdered, and then now they're fucking mad.
For me,
they're fucking
exactly.
mad. And there's one of them that's like, just let me die, please.
For me, the Blood Angels is the player who wants to also slam just melee at their opponent's face, but loves the aesthetic of Blood Angels because of that whole like noble sacrifice. They love that whole Blood Angel thing of like, oh, we're the one chapter with the dead Primarch. You know,
And if I mention the word Horus, I'll see 50 of them coming at me at Mark 5.
correct.
I'm not as into the vampire leaning stuff, to be honest with you. I just really, I really like the like Sanguinus being probably my favorite Primarch through the Horus Heresy. I would have liked more of a but it's hard because the Dark Angels, the Black Templars probably take up this mantle of what I think is like the noble, like all for the good.
The good guys.
Yeah, because you know how like the
Ultramarines are kind of that.
yeah, well, I feel
stability.
like the Ultramarines are like your third tier manager are good, where it's like they're good and they'll just do it by the books because they'll do their job and go home. Whereas I feel like I really want the Blood Angels to sit in the like, we're wholly good, which means if we have to murder some children along the way, I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know
For
what I mean?
me, every narrative around the Blood Angels is around like tragedy and sacrifice. The recent ones with the devastation of Baal, where the Blood Angels are almost eradicated in the lore by now. They've been so devastated by the Tyranids, that they've always kind of represented that sacrifice for trying to for the battle.
Yeah, true.
All right, on to Grey Knights.
Baby carriers.
Baby carriers.
Grey Knights have the same problem I have with Custodes, where they're just a little too OP.
Yeah.
That was a massive lore problem early on.
Yeah. Grey Knights should just be in they should be in the Witch Hunters.
They're just being in the
Because I'll tell you, like,
Ecclesiarchy.
in the very early days, like 4th, 5th edition, you had a unit of Custodes who were gold, and then you had a unit of Grey Knights who were grey, and then you had a unit of the Sisters of Battle, and they're black. And it meant you have some, just like the Elder with the Aspect Warriors, the concept was you could paint, you have an army with all these different color schemes in it, so it's interesting to paint, and on the table it looks really diverse. The problem is when you take all of the gold guys and you make a gold army, and all the grey guys make a grey army, and all the black girls you make a black girl army. Now you've just got one-dimensional colored armies, and it's really boring to look at on the thing.
Yeah.
And now they do things where it's like they have to add like
The different
yeah,
the
like-
Well, now
different,
that's
like,
why they've
shield hosts and like orders.
robes and
Well,
different.
they've remerged it into the Imperial Agents now.
Yeah, that's what I was
Codex,
gonna
they
say,
call
but-
it.
Oh, they brought it back.
They've merged all of them into the Imperial Agents Codex.
Because
cool.
Grey Knights will be a separate codex, but you can run, say, Grey Knights in Imperial because they're a part of the Ordo Malleus, like Demon Hunters. They're the fighting force of the Ordo Malleus.
I think GW realized in this edition that was like, we're not going to give them anything. We might as well just merge them back together.
You can soup.
Damn, I'm kind of back on board.
Yeah.
So Imperial Agents, Grey Knights are still going to have their own codex. Sisters have their own codex, but you could soup them in because the Ordo Hereticus's fighting force is the Ecclesiarchy by default. Sisters. Ordo Malleus is the Grey Knights. Ordo Xenos is the Death Watch. So you can Death Watch can kind of still be played separately, but you can throw them into Imperial Agents.
Yeah.
From what I know, I could be completely wrong.
And that includes like all the kill team unit guys as well. Into
I
that same
believe
thing?
so. Yes,
Yeah.
depending on rules. Yeah.
We're gonna skip through. We're gonna skip through Imperial Fist, Iron Hands players.
Fist
and-
hand.
Yeah, we're gonna skip through.
Siege, Fortify.
We're gonna skip through the Fist and Hand players because let's be honest,
Robots in
there's not-
Disguise
there's-
and Siege and Fortify.
There's not really that
I
many.
don't really see that many people playing.
Yeah,
either of
and
those
same goes
armies
to the
ever.
White Scars. I don't think I've.
Hey,
ever,
man,
I don't think
Mongolian-
I've. I think I've seen maybe like one White Scar player ever.
Yo, Mongolian
Yeah.
throat singers are like,
I think White Scars have a cool like aesthetic, and I think Jagged Eye Khan's a cool
Their
Primarch, but
concept
there's not
is
a lot.
cool, but there's not a single person who wants to paint entire white armor.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's cool.
Correct. And then the playstyle is like bikes, where right now bikes just bad.
Yeah.
Like every single Space Marine bike is bad.
Are they
They're a
phasing
speed
bikes
limit.
out completely?
The
No,
problem
bikes
is
are
for me, they introduced Outriders as a replacement to that classic Space Marine bike.
Mm.
And the Outrider model is really cool. And they have that chaplain on bike, awesome model.
Is
but
this the bike looking thing?
no,
No,
the one with the
just
actual
bikes.
motorcycle where the chaplain has a Bible, like the
Oh,
holy
yes,
book
yes, yeah.
chained to the front of it. Awesome mini, and alongside the Outriders, cool looking mini, just terrible rules. Just doesn't do anything.
You just don't see it.
Yeah, but I do love me some Mongolian throat singing, you know?
Yeah. The classic Mongolian. I want to be
Do you
riding
think,
horses.
do you
like-
think if they'd lent more into the Mongolian aesthetic for their armor? Because no Mongolian army ever wore pure white. So if it was more greys and furs and stuff like that, would you be more on board?
Yeah, I'll be more on board if they maybe had like more like scale armory looking things.
Yeah,
maybe as
browns
well.
like leather.
Horus
things.
Heresy. Their Terminators in art, like Quinzar, who was like back in the day, like the head of their Terminators, their captain. Their Terminators look sick. I suggest looking them up. They look sick.
All right, I didn't realize how many Space Marine chapters there
Yeah,
are.
I was gonna say we could speed run
We
this.
got to speed run it just a little bit faster. Salamanders.
Nice people.
They're the classic good guys of the Space Marine
Again,
chapters.
I've been running businesses in this hobby for a long time. I've maybe met like two. Connor's first Space Marines
There's
were
a handful
Salamanders.
of Salamander players.
Like my mate, but I've
They
seen
need a
so
solid
few.
rework because Salamanders have cool stuff going on.
They,
There's not enough Salamander players.
New Codex is apparently coming up supplement for them. They're
Hopefully
apparently
good.
getting
In the same vein, Raven Guard. Sure.
Raven Guard is a very cool aesthetic, but it's just mono black again, right?
Yeah, Raven Guard is the player who really wants to try stealth and like reconnaissance strategies in Space Marines, and then realizes, oh, I'm playing Space Marines. I just shoot my enemies
I am-
with tanks and
Yeah,
guns.
why are they trying to creep up on anybody?
I am 8 foot tall and I've got noise cancelling headphones.
Yeah. And then finally, the most recently updated faction on the roster, the Space Wolves.
Space Wolves. There is 2 camps. This is the definitive, and this has been meme to hell. People who like Viking aesthetics a bit too much,
Yeah.
and furries. And
classic,
sometimes that can be a Venn diagram. Sometimes it's a full circle, depending where you are.
I think they should be more Viking-y and leave the Space Marine almost like, I want Space Marines with like a leg armor, a big belt, like a stomach. I have to wear.
Yeah,
hose.
like the
It
Conan
takes-
big,
big
wolf-
Conan belt, and then no top. I just
Oh, you
I
want them to be actually look like Viking?
Yeah,
berserkers.
like-
Oh, so like Emperor's Children have the bit of the ab going, but in the Loyalist, you've got a bit of the ab going on, like the elite.
I
get it.
want full up. I want to see some bulk ass pecs.
like actual berserkers.
yeah, like stuff like that. I don't like the whole we turned them into dogs or whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, they-
because that's way too
That's-
chaotic.
that's the whole
thankfully,
GNC thing,
thankfully, the most recent redesign, they moved away from
They
that wolf
omitted those?
aesthetic,
Yeah, 'cause
and
that
now it's way
sucked.
more Viking.
Even
aesthetic.
Ragnar, like even Ragnar's new model, like he has the fangs, whatever. They're all gonna have that. He has a bit of the sideburns going, like bit of the old days.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look really wolfy. He has wolf aesthetic on his armor, of course, and like a wolf pelt on. But like he's not. They're not really with the facial aesthetics going very like half canine looking. in
For
my
me,
opinion.
I hate that.
For me, Space Wolves are the guy who wants their fantasy with their sci-fi, and they're really drawn into that aesthetic of like, hell yeah, Vikings in my fantasy
dead
game.
set.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
there's the fantasy bit.
They have some of the strongest aesthetics in the entire Space Marine lineup.
Their old metal dreadnought was also one of the coolest models ever. So it's like I want to see more of that. Like just leaning, you've put yourself the same as like the White Skies into like the Mongolian thing. You've already cornered yourself into this position. Use it.
Just double down. We
Yeah,
don't need to be Space Marines.
yeah.
Just double down into that cool, like, augmented human.
You know how they put the Imperial Guard on the robot horses? Put the fucking this Mongolian based Space Marines on there, and like
get
with
it.
some like some
I
sort
get
of
it.
treasure trebuchet like looking like tank or something.
I
That would be
definitely
fucking
feel
dope.
like the Space Wolves are on a good direction, and they're up on the possibility of getting a Primarch back. So, and it will be really cool to see what a Lehman Russ looks like. A
I
proper
hope
Lehman Russ.
his model comes back, but it's him in like a ice, like a frozen.
He's
block.
just in a cube.
Yeah, they found him. Yeah,
Ooh, and to build him, you have to chip him out of the cube.
There is like not to drag on a bit more because but
no, yeah, that's what we're for. Kang tries to finish, and I just yap all the way through.
hours later.
12 hours later. Riley, you have to go to work.
I know, I should have been at work. No, they're thinking that he might come back with an own very heavy Odin aesthetic. Like he'll be a lot more somber.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
They're all
And he'll have the
aged now.
spear with him. Yeah, like he will age.
Because
He'll
the
have, like, a
lion was
beard, he'll
aged when he
be-
came back.
Yeah, and the whole thing, the only reason why Gilliman hasn't aged was because he was in proper stasis.
Yeah.
But he developed extreme depression instead because he came back and was like,
Oh, shit's fucked.
well, shit's fucked in all caps.
My daddy's dead.
My daddy's dead. My daddy's dead. He's an amalgamation of what everyone's praying to him. So he's just a mindless, screaming ideal made manifest.
Do you think Gilliman got more upset when the lion came back around? Because he's
probably-
like, I was daddy's favorite. Oh,
I
not
don't
anymore. Ooh.
think they've met up yet.
Yeah, because he's mad at him.
I think he's probably because
He hates that his dad likes him more.
The lion in Prehistory hates Gilliman, hates him because again, like Gilliman's a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
The lion's like, I'm gonna get stuff done. I'm the big brother who's gonna actually just knock this guy out.
I always equate it to like when I grew up quite poor, and then when my sister was like 10 years difference to me. So by that point, my parents had sorted their finances out just a little bit. And I remember when she got an iPad for her birthday, and me and my brother kind of looked at each other like, "What the fuck?" That's what I imagined the distance like.
Yeah.
The lion's looking down at Gilliman,
Yeah.
being like, "How did he get two chapters of Space Marines numbers? What the fuck is this?"
How did he get himself an
Hey,
Eldar
how come he
wife?
gets the shield of the Emperor?
How did he get an Eldar GF?
All right. Cool. Thank you very much. This is an hour and 30 mark. We've been yapping on.
This is a
a little actual
Yapaholics,
hobby episode for once.
Yapaholics Anonymous.
Yapaholics Anonymous.
Even
do
though
we have
paying
any-
Danny and Riley.
Do we have
are-
any idea of like a rough schedule, maybe other guests we might be getting on for the next future episodes? Because
Yeah.
we have William away for a few weeks.
Yeah. Wade's on next week. We're going to be doing some gym talk and some comic
Very
talk, which
nice.
is pretty
Yeah,
good.
nice.
And then theoretically, we get Elia back on the week after, and he's going to do some hobby talk and some painting, give some ideas. And then we've got a few people I'm talking to for the week or two after. So
So you heard it right. We're not just only going to be talking about Magic the Gathering for a while.
I'm trying to be prepared.
Very nice.
And I'm just here having a good time.
Thank you very much for
Thank you
jumping
so much,
on,
Riley. I
Riley.
appreciate it, love.
Hope you enjoy listening back to this episode as well.
I will regret half of what I've said.
No stress.
It's fine.
Good times.
I don't listen back.
right.
I don't want to listen back. I'll probably hear from everyone else going, "What did you do? You're cancelled on Twitter."
All right. Check us out on YouTube as well. I've uploaded the Final Fantasy unboxing video. It was a really fun one. And take care, everyone.
See you. Bye.
Adios.